immediately as this whole restrictions went into place was, something new to us, right? We had to learn how to react, which was definitely interesting because every day seemed to bring something different from
so
us.
the past 4 weeks, professionally and personally, have definitely picked up in terms of responsibility, dealing with really unforeseen circumstances and so
I
forth.
don't
And
think
then
it's less stressful.
personally,
I feel like it's worse, to be honest with you, because everybody's home. There's constant calls, there's constant emails. It just feels like it's nonstop. I was
What we're
explaining it to
dealing
somebody
with
the other day.
is inconvenient, but certainly pales in comparison to what everybody else is doing. Just trying to get a football stadium built, and it's obviously important to this market and important to the recovery efforts. But compared to people in the healthcare industry and people that are really suffering, what we're dealing with is, again, is minor.
For many of us, this scene has become common and the world's new normal. By now, we're all a little fatigued by the word unprecedented. But whether you call it abnormal, unique, or remarkable, for Las Vegas, this change is very real, very scary, and it is quite unbelievable. This show's production, not surprisingly, has also been affected. For safety measures, we've stayed off the site, but we'll be showcasing footage we captured earlier. The Raiders, united with a team of tireless leaders from Nevada, are creating an ultra-modern, permanent stadium for the Raider Nation to call home. These are the stories of the people and the project, told from the ground up.
Take a look at this video from Chief Meteorologist and drone pilot Ted Pretty. He recorded it this morning. This is the roof of Allegiant Stadium.
With the roof complete, now, when inside, the combination of the open peristyle doors, the movable field tray with real grass, and the semi-translucent ETFE roof provides the feeling of being outdoors, yet in a comfortably controlled environment that protects against the Las Vegas heat.
We made a decision not to have a retractable roof. It's because half the crowd will be sitting in the sun and half the crowd will be sitting in the shade. And it creates this sort of conflict for the guest experience in the stadium. And in Vegas, that problem would be worse than ever with that sun in the desert. We made a decision instead to have a retractable wall on the north end of the building that opens up towards the strip. In that way, the entire crowd gets to sit in the shade for the game. The second important thing, though, is that we wanted to have absolute control of the amount of light that came into the stadium. Again, making sure that everyone was very comfortable in sitting in the shade. So we worked with ETFE roof, which is basically a thin layer of plastic that's used like a pillow cushion. We can dial up or down the transparency of that material, but it is also very, very light in weight, which means it takes very, very little structure to hold it up.
A ton of work went into this one-of-a-kind construction, never before attempted in the United States. But let's back up for a moment as we deconstruct the roof. I promise by the end of the episode, we'll put it all back together. The concept behind a cable net roof is simple, in theory, but not so simple to execute, especially the one for Allegiant Stadium. Based on cable suspension bridge technology, the idea is to create a truss out of two cables under tension, with a strut separating the two. This allows you to span a much larger area with a great reduction in weight. The first step is for the team to place all of the gear on the roof required to lift the massive 300-ton cable net grid. A series of platforms, custom-made for this purpose, are hauled to the roof and bolted into place along the edge, creating support for equipment and access for the workers. Just these platforms alone required an incredible amount of engineering.
This roof structure type being the first of any kind of cable net structure that's been done on an NFL football stadium. It's the first one for us, the first one for Fresno.
At the end of the day, none of us in this room matter. What matters is our workers.
While this is obviously new to us, new to the market, new to the guys that'll be doing it, right? They'll have never seen this stuff before.
Erica, this guy's gonna pull it. Don't pull it this way, okay? Thank you.
Once the team has all the pulling equipment in place, the entire cable truss system can be laid out on the ground and the cables attached to the struts. The cables are arriving on site, pre-cut, and can't be adjusted. Here, precision is the key to success.
So basically we are going to build the roof on the ground, and it's like a double roof here. So we will lay down the top cable and the bottom cable, and we will start to lift the full roof from the ground, connect the bottom roof to the top roof, and continue to lift it all the way up. And by stressing, we will make it like a dome to cover all this stadium.
So when the roof will be spinning, we have two nets, the top net and the bottom net, and they're all two axes, one transversal, one longitudinal, and they need to be connected by these two pieces, so the top node and the bottom node. In between, we will find the strut. It's the tube that you can see on the scaffold right now. It's just to keep the gap between these two nets. So right now, the uncoiling is all done. All the cables are on the ground. The big part is connecting everything to the node and installing the struts as we start opening.
Everything is in place and connected. The big lift can begin. Inch by inch, the entire grid is raised into place with a series of smaller cable strands which are attached to the larger truss cables. Each cable strand is tensioned exactly right to evenly spread the load.
There's not much tension down below because we don't have the complete system lifted. So there tends to be a couple strands that are loosen off as we're pulling up. You can see the slack, there's a little bit of a bow in the cables. That's the ones with the less tension. The two ends and then the side are stressing the most, and the corners are kind of there just to help get it up to our node up top.
The entire cable net slowly lifts into the air, almost imperceptible to the naked eye. While this is the first application of its kind in the United States, the contractor responsible, Fresno, has a long and interesting history working with tensioning cables for roofs, bridges, and concrete.
Fresno was a French engineer which in the 1920s invented the pre-stressed. We got a huge experience in post-tensioning, which is the use of hydraulic jacks, the use of strand jacks. You have to tension cables, you have to tension strands to give them their rigidity and as well as the flexibility. This kind of grid, this kind of project makes it very complex because everything is linked to each other and you're pulling both on the longitudinal and transversal directions. You're also pulling on two levels of cables, and you're pulling on a grid which basically has corners. Everything is pulling towards the center, so you have to pull it and stretch it so that it goes towards everywhere in the stadium, towards the angles, which makes it very technical. There's a lot of parameters to consider. Whereas on other stadiums where we're only covering the stands, it's a radial grid, which is very different and I would say a bit less complex.
There wasn't a roadmap, there was nothing really to go off of to teach me or really many people on our team how to build a cable net roof structure like this. There's been a lot of analysis, a lot of engineering back and forth to kind of get a complete robust system put together. I don't know if I'll do another structure like this. I think what I'll take most is just the problem-solving skills that I had to develop by working on something that there wasn't a roadmap for and being able to take that forward and help that progress in my career.
When you think about a building like this stadium, it's a unique design, and it's a highly sophisticated and complex design. There are thousands of moving parts. There are millions of pieces and components to this. There are going to be challenges thrown at you. Now, if I had $1 for everyone's used the term unprecedented, we'd probably pay off a good portion of the stadium. It really is unprecedented, though. And so there's no roadmap for this. And so you have to have people that are flexible, they're intuitive, they're observant, and decisive. Fortunately, we have a team, starting with the Mortensen McCarthy Group and ICON, as well as the Raider staff themselves, that are able to really react to this unprecedented set of conditions.
So everybody's supposed to stay at home. The job sites have remained open, but what we've told everybody that works for the organization, unless you have a real reason to be on the job site, we don't want you there.
So typically what you've seen in the past is we all get together for stretch. They get the exact same information from us. Every person does. They're there. They see us face to face. Any concerns, big or small, are able to be addressed right away first thing in the morning. And what this did, now we're limited. We can't have a meeting of greater than 10 people.
Every time someone says someone has an issue, it's not a matter of getting too upset about it, because usually there's 10 different factors out there, all related to what's going on in the world. You just got to keep working through the problems and keep figuring things out.
The toughest part is that people believe in leaders, right? People don't believe in companies. They don't believe in a document, right? Culture isn't built through a piece of paper. Culture is built through people being out there, people supporting each other, people listening. Now we're able to do that 10 people at a time. So it's definitely created some challenges for us.
Good afternoon. So this is gonna be our horizontal lifeline. Horizontal lifeline is this cable right here. This is how you're gonna get out of these cores, from core 8 or core 3, to get around our roof. And then you guys with your company have your own plan of how you're gonna work off of the roof. You need a double lanyard. If you do not have 2 lanyards, you cannot travel the system. Reason for that, right? You hook in, you come into an issue when you get to that stanchion, right? It's 100% tie up on that roof. That's what we require. So that's why you have to have 2, hit the other one in, before you take the first one off, all right?
The final pin is placed. The next contractor, Vector Foil Tech, begins installing the 3-panel plastic roof system known as ETFE.
My father, who founded the business more than 35 years ago, has been and still is a very avid sailor. So he knew how sails worked, and he applied some of that knowledge. The patterning, how you can put them together, how you can fasten them on top of a roofing structure. Some of those technologies are really derived from the sailing business. So it's really used in a lot of different applications where you need very lightweight roofing structures or facade structures, where you need a lot of light or somewhat controlled lighting conditions that you want to achieve without having super big structures or pillars right in the middle. That's what we do, and we really see us as the enablers for architect to create these phenomenal spaces as we see them here at the Allegiant Stadium.
As safety lines and netting are put into position, installation of the panels begins.
I am setting up an HLL, which is a horizontal lifeline, for the crew that's going to be walking this beam here. We have a 2 ropes system up top, and then we've got a net underneath. And they're both rated for very incredibly high loads, so you could throw a semi off a lot of these ropes and it wouldn't break them. And we've got these pretty ingenious idea that Ashley and Casey came up with to put these pool floaties underneath the ETFE to keep it up. And then also it serves as like a wing barrier so it doesn't like flip up. I'm gonna go help Caleb set up the pool floaties or the rollers. Ready to pull!
Panel by panel, the roof is installed and inflated, and the resulting curvature gives the structure strength while allowing runoff for any rain. And yes, it does occasionally rain in Las Vegas. At last, another major milestone is reached. But the deadline for the completion of Allegiant Stadium approaches quickly. The building is on track, and the excitement continues to build as the team's inaugural season schedule is released.
All right, Raiders fans, today is certainly a big day with the big news here, Tricia.
Well, big news tonight. The NFL releasing its schedule today, and that is huge for Las Vegas.
This is like opening presents on Christmas morning for football fans, and especially the people of Las Vegas who have been waiting for an NFL team.
The Raiders will open on the road. They take on the Carolina Panthers.
And then that first home game ever against the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees on Monday Night Football. That is going to be a national spotlight game, and that is going to be quite a night here in Las Vegas.
But before a single game can be played, we all have more work to do.
I just can't tell you how excited I am. I am so eager to get to Las Vegas and just compete with the Raider brand, with Las Vegas joining forces. It's going to be so awesome. Let's beat the virus. That'll be our biggest win ever. And then we get back to football, and what a way to start the party in Las Vegas. It'll be awesome.
The future is always uncertain for all of us. But this time, this feels different. Unprecedented times for an unprecedented stadium. Maybe that word has a little life left in it, after all.